You know what things look like in the capital of Albania on a normal Monday, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't usually look like this. This was today. Look at that.
My goodness.
Thousands of people gathered outside the Parliament building in the Albanian capital. This is the 8th consecutive day of huge protests in this country against the corruption of Donald Trump and his family. Wow. For over a week, demonstrators have been gathering in massive numbers to protest a real estate project that's planned by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner's private equity firm, which is mostly funded by the Saudi government. They plan to build a resort on the site of a national treasure ecological preserve in Albania. And it turns out the Albanian people feel quite protective of that. These protests started when barbed wire fences first started going up at the development site, cutting off public access to the local beaches. Then crowds started gathering at the coast, including using their bodies to spell out their protest about saving this ecological site. Protests in the capital city have been filled with images of flamingos because among the other things that Jared's project threatens, it threatens flamingo habitat. So all the flamingos at the protest have got some people calling this the flamingo revolution, and oh my God, am I down with that? And you might not think a protected ecological preserve and its flamingos would be the spark for a political revolution, but these protests are really about corruption, and they might turn out the government of Albania. The people of Albania want to know why their prime minister appears to be selling off their most beautiful coastline to the son-in-law of the American president and his Saudi investors.
It's our country. I don't want it to be sold to somebody else. It's dirty money. They discovered this island. What do you mean? It's been discovered. It's ours. It's bullcrap, honestly.
Albania's Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office has now opened an investigation into this development. The European Union is now warning that if the country moves forward with Jared's project, it could put Albania's
You'll be
application
sorry.
in the EU in jeopardy. I mean, if the protesters are right, if Albania's prime minister has done this to try to curry favor with Donald Trump by pushing through Trump's son-in-law's real estate project, I mean, he would have good reason to think that would work. For example, here's a headline, quote, "Ballroom donors won $50 billion in contracts after giving to Trump project." More than half of the publicly identified donors to President Trump's White House ballroom project have won new or expanded federal contracts during the past 6 months, worth more than $50 billion in taxpayer
The
money.
graft is
The
unbelievable.
nonprofit group Public Citizen found that several of those same companies have had federal enforcement actions over alleged wrongdoing suspended by the Trump administration since the start of Trump's second term. Yeah, kicking some money to the president's pet project, get taxpayer-funded contracts, and magically you find that investigations into your business disappear. I mean, that's what it looks like. The White House, of course, denies any impropriety. They're calling the allegations, quote, fake conflicts of interest. I don't know, kind of look just like conflicts of interest. But there's an obvious pattern here, right? There was the tobacco company that really wanted the FDA to approve fruit-flavored nicotine vapes. They gave $5 million to a Trump-aligned super PAC. 2 days later, they got a meeting with Trump, during which he called the top health officials in the federal government to push the company's complaints. Just over a week later, the FDA changed its process and approved the fruit-flavored nicotine vapes. Days after that, the FDA commissioner himself was ousted. There was also the banker facing felony bribery charges who was pardoned by Trump after the banker's daughter gave millions to the same Trump super PAC. There was also the nursing home industry, which opposed a federal rule that would have required increased staffing at nursing homes to prevent neglect of patients. Nursing home executives wrote millions of dollars in checks to that same Trump super PAC, and then, wouldn't you know, soon afterwards, the White House dropped support for the rule. There was the time when President Trump suddenly reversed his longtime support for a new bridge between the U.S. and Canada. Why did he reverse his support? I don't know, but it happened shortly after an opponent of the new bridge, you guessed it, donated $1 million to that same Trump super PAC. Then there were the revelations that Trump appeared to be buying stocks in companies that he was then publicly boosting as president. buying some of these stocks on the same day he publicly praised the company.
Oh my God.
And there was the nearly $10 billion defense contract awarded to Dell Computers right after Trump personally purchased more than $1 million of Dell stock. The White House says Trump's stocks are in a trust, and that, of course, all his policies are only for the good of the American people. When has he ever done anything that's for anything other than the good of the American people? None of this has anything to do with anybody paying any money. But while we're on the subject of stock purchases, there's also this, quote, President Donald Trump purchased between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of stock in the parent company of UFC and WWE. He did so weeks ahead of a White House UFC event. Trump's financial disclosures, quote, do not specify how much stock Trump purchased, but say he acquired it March 25th, a little more than 2 weeks after the Freedom Fights 250 fight card was publicly revealed, and which he has been promoting nonstop. Meanwhile, UFC, which is helmed by Trump donor Dana White, UFC has been selling ticket packages to the event at the White House for $1 million or more. Trump's super PAC is now hosting a fundraiser the night before at $1 million per person.
Oh, good grief.
And that's not to mention the fees
Sickening.
that Paramount Skydance will collect for streaming the event. Paramount Skydance, a media company owned by 2 other executives with ties to
Birthday
Trump.
gift for him, $1 million a seat.
And all those potential financial gains for Trump himself and for all those Trump allies, those are part of the reason an anti-corruption organization has now filed a lawsuit seeking to stop the UFC cage match on the White House grounds. It's scheduled to be less than a week away, so if this is going to happen, it's going to happen soon. Joining us now is former federal prosecutor Brendan Ballou. He's